Tonight, 29-year-old Billy Costello, the undefeated WBC super lightweight champion, defends his title for the 4th time against undefeated challenger Lightning Lonnie Smith. Costello won the championship in January 1984 by knocking Bruce Curry out in the 10th round. Costello has successfully defended his title 3 times, but has been unable to knock out any of his challengers, including his last one, Leroy Haley. Also tonight, the career of ring veteran Wilfredo Benitez, the former junior welterweight, and super welterweight champion, is at a crossroads in a comeback attempt against unbeaten Long Islander Kevin Moley. Benitez, when he's right, is capable of knocking out anybody. Tonight, on the Night of Champions, Wilfredo Benitez and Kevin Moley, Billy Costello and Lonnie Smith for the WBC Super Lightweight Championship. Welcome to Madison Square Garden in New York. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Steiner. This is Al Bernstein. A couple of entertaining fights upcoming. The WBC Junior Lightweight Champion, Billy Costello, looking for recognition tonight, Al. Well, Billy Costello, despite his 30-0 record and the fact that he's defended his title several times, feels that the boxing world and indeed the casual boxing observer hasn't quite given him his due yet. And he feels that he could well be the best junior welterweight on the face of the earth, and I think he has a good argument. He's a fighter with a great left hook to the body and the head, very good inside fighter, and I think tonight that's what he wants to do against Lonnie Smith. What can you tell us about Lonnie Smith? You've covered him on ESPN. I've seen Lonnie a number of times, and he is an enigmatic fighter. He's got a very strange style, unorthodox, but he has great hand speed and foot speed, and the key for him, I think, is does he have enough sting to keep Costello off him, and can he box Billy Costello? If he can do that effectively, he may well have a shot to lift the title tonight. Our opening bout has an intriguing storyline indeed, Benitez and Moley. Well, Wilfredo Benitez, now 26 years old, in the midst of what may be his 8th or 9th comeback. It's hard to tell. And the people are wondering, what does he have left? For Kevin Moley, a good young fighter, untested, big test for him tonight. We'll be back with that fight in just a minute, right after this. And you're looking at Wilfredo Benitez. And Benitez, as we were telling you in the storyline up top, is a fascinating story. He won his first championship, Al, when he was 17 years old. Kevin Moley, on the other hand, this is his first big shot. Boy, what a difference in these fighters, as you said. A look at the tail of the tape tells us that Moley with that height advantage. The rest is pretty much the same. Moley more of a middleweight at this point at 157, but not much to pick from there. And that tail of the tape won't tell us that much because Benitez is such a crafty fighter. The question in this fight is going to be, what does Kevin Moley have, and what does Wilfredo Benitez have left? That's for sure, and by that experience, you can see Wilfred has been around the block 2 or 3 times. And now the introduction of the fighters in the center of the ring.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is scheduled for 10 rounds. It's an over-the-limit junior middleweight contest. The judges for this bout, Simone Ramos, Bernie Friedkin, and George DeGabriel. The knockdown timekeeper, Johnny Lobianco. The referee at this time, Joe Cortez. And now I'd like to introduce the fighters in the red corner from Selden, Long Island, New York. He weighed in at a strong 157 pounds. He comes into this fight with a record of 22 wins against no losses. 19 of those wins have come via the knockout route. He's wearing green trunks trimmed with white. Let's hear it for a middleweight sensation, Kevin Moley. And to my right, in the blue corner, all the way from San Juan, Puerto Rico, a 3-time former world champion, one of the best fighters of this or any era. He weighed in at 154 pounds. His record, 47 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw, with 28 knockouts. the great Wilfredo Benitez.
It was March 1976 in San Juan when Benitez, at the age of 17, upset Antonio Cervantes, and that was his first of 3 titles. He has been around the block on more than one occasion now.
What an odyssey it's been for that man as he now looks at a young fighter who is really in his first major test.
Kevin Moley from Selden, Long Island, has a busload of folks here on his behalf, and so he is clearly the people's choice here at the Garden. Moley in the green trunks, Wilfredo Benitez in the blue.
Charlie, for Benitez, his last fight was July 6th, and that's his only fight in 1985. So for him, he hasn't fought much recently.
The butterflies have to be fluttering a bit for young Kevin Moley. His first time in Madison Square Garden, in front of the home folks.
Moley is not a stylist. He's a fighter who wants to come right in, throw lots of punches, and use his power on the inside. Benitez, when he was right...
That's Benitez shaking.
That was a knockdown. Appropriate call by Joe Cortez, though Benitez says no.
Just 15 seconds into the first round, Benitez goes to one knee. And Kevin Moley making quite an initial impression.
There were reports this week that Benitez looked bad in sparring, that he'd been down several times. Perhaps they were true.
Benitez apparently content to stay in the corner, and now he moves to the center of the ring.
Benitez used to be great fighting off the ropes and very tough to hit, but based upon what we've seen in this first round, maybe that has deteriorated as well.
We had heard word that Benitez was floored a couple of times in his sparring.
Moley has landed the overhand right at least 4 or 5 times already in this fight.
And there's Benitez countering with a right hand.
Now, Wilfred backs himself against the ropes. That's almost by rote. He's fought most of his career off those ropes. He likes to come out and counterpunch off that posture.
We want to remind all of our local stations that at the end of the round, we'll be taking a 1-minute local commercial break.
Right hand by Benitez hurt Moley. So this first round, more action-packed than I think some anticipated. Another right by Benitez.
And another right. Moley blocked that right hand by Benitez.
Wilfred is not known as a knockout artist, despite the fact that he's got fairly good knockout numbers against the good fighters. But we remember, as we saw in that tease, he really decked Maurice Hope, and he does have some sting in the right hand.
That's Moley countering the right.
Charlie, there looks like there's a cut over the left eye of Kevin Moley, some blood trickling down.
A right hand by Benitez with less than a half a minute to go in an action-packed first round. Ten seconds left in round 1. And we'll be back to Madison Square Garden right after this word from our local station. Wilfred Benitez and Kevin Moley. Benitez knocked down 20 seconds into the first round, but responded nicely in the final minute and a half of the first round.
Benitez started this round out with an overhand lead right. I think he feels that that's the punch he can land against Moley, and he did land it well in the first round. So look for that shot from Benitez.
Who'd you give that first round to, Al?
I would give the first round probably to Moley by a very small margin, not just because of the knockdown, but he had some good moments in the first 2/3 of the round before Benitez really came back. But again, that was a very close one. And they're scoring, by the way, by a round system here. So the knockdown wouldn't make it a 10-8 round or anything and give Moley a bigger advantage.
Moley in the green trunks, and Wilfred Benitez in the baby blue. A minute into round 2. Scheduled 10 rounds. The referee is Joe Cortez. We're coming to you live from Madison Square Garden in New York. I'm Charlie Steiner along with Al Bernstein. That was much more of a push than a punch. by Moley.
You know, even with the erosion of skills that we can see in Benitez, Charlie, he does so many things right just by rote because of the years he's been fighting that he's a very dangerous opponent for anybody. There's the lead right by Benitez, and he feels he can nail Moley with that. That one just missed.
Kevin Moley, unbeaten, 22-0 with 19 knockouts. Benitez 47-4-1 with 28 KOs. And a left hand that connects by Benitez.
There is some redness around the left eye of Kevin Moley. Getting a little ugly there, and Benitez will try and work on that with the lead right.
Less than a minute to go in round 2.
Benitez now is slipping the straight right hand by Moley and getting his own in as he did there.
And he's also, oh, there's a good left hand, followed by a right by Benitez. Half a minute to go, round 2.
You know, in his last major test against Davey Moore last year, he was knocked out in 2 rounds, Benitez. Hurt himself in that fight, had a bad ankle during it, but still, lots for him to prove right now.
He broke his ankle in 3 places on that fight. 10 seconds to go in the second round. And blood is now pouring from the right eye of Kevin Moley.
Wilfredo Benitez has always used this punch well, the left uppercut, and he used it against Kevin Moley in the last round.
Round 3. The corner of Kevin Moley worked overtime in that 1-minute intermission to close up the cut over the right eye. Benitez seems to be growing with confidence as the fight wears on.
Well, some fighters need to get into their offensive pattern in a fight, Charlie. I think for Benitez, it's when he gets into his defensive pattern is when he's effective. Now he's slipping a lot of the shots that Moley is throwing. He didn't do that early. He's very tight coming into this fight. And that cut over the right eye of Moley, I'll tell you, that is a bad one.
That could well be a factor before this fight is done. Moley in the green trunks and Benitez in the blue.
Good short right by Moley. That may have stunned Benitez.
And now Benitez stuck in his own corner. Moley does not have the most polished defensive skills, but he's an aggressive kid who keeps coming.
Well, he is, but Benitez is still a very good counterpuncher, and I think that's what Moley has to be aware of. You see on the inside, Benitez, he's been around for a long time. He knows how to use some elbows, his head, and some other things to work on that cut.
And that right eye is growing nastier.
Now the uppercut from Moley, and that's working for him on the inside.
Fight has been a roller coaster of tempo so far. And there's Benitez countering.
Right now, I think, Charlie, it's the hand speed and the short punches of Benitez that are winning the day. This is when Benitez is so frustrating and so dangerous when you have him on the ropes and you just can't hit him, and he's counterpunching well.
We'll be right back with more boxing from... I want to remind all of our local stations that at the end of the round, we'll be taking a 1-minute local commercial break. Coming up at the end of the round, 40 seconds left in round 3.
Good hand speed, and this is the Benitez that we have come to know. Laying on the ropes, counterpunching, and he waves to Moley, says, come on in, I like this posture, and he hits him with the right hand. Boy, how many fighters have faced this in the past against Benitez and come up short?
Just when you think you've got his number, he counters ever so well. What does Kevin Moley have, and what does Wilfredo Benitez have left? And now we'll be right back with more boxing from Madison Square Garden, right after this word from our local station. War from Madison Square Garden, Wilfredo Benitez and Kevin Moley. Moley came into this fight unbeaten, 22-0 with 19 knockouts. But he has never fought a fighter with the experience of Wilfredo Benitez. And that experience is beginning to show real telltale sign here, Al.
Moley's still getting in some good right hands, but you're right. Benitez, because of his skill at slipping punches, is making Kevin miss a lot and then making him pay.
Benitez is unblemished. Moley was cut in the second round over the right eye. But Moley's come backing off, and he's landed a solid right hand on Benitez.
Well, he showed in the first round he could hurt Wilfred.
Benitez was knocked down just 20 seconds into the first round. He didn't think he was, but Joe Cortez, in fact, rightly called it a knockdown.
You know, in this round, after he couldn't land that straight right in the second and third, Moley started to land that punch.
Benitez has spent the better part of this fight camped in one corner or another and countering out of that corner.
We've seen him do that well, as he has against many fighters, against Carlos Palomino to win the title, but then we saw that strategy explode in his face, because when he fought Mustafa Hamsho and Tommy Hearns in those fights, that posture didn't work for him. He also made it work against Roberto Duran in 1982 when he retained his super welterweight title.
So Benitez has been around the corner. He won his first title in 1976 at the age of 17.
Now for Kevin Moley, the fight changed in the second round. He started to get hit with those counter shots, but to his credit, it has not deterred him. He's come in strong, and in this fourth round has been able to land better against Benitez.
I want to remind all of our stations that at the end of the round, we'll be taking a 1-minute local commercial break. Less than a minute to go. Kevin Moley from nearby Selden, Long Island, has a bunch of friends into the city tonight for the fight.
You know, Benitez abandoned the straight right hand, the lead right in this round. Now he's starting to find it again. That's a punch that worked well for him earlier, and there it is, followed by a left.
It appears as if Benitez is most comfortable in the corner, and there, a left hand has Benitez dazed. Less than a half a minute to go, and Benitez is covering up.
Straight right by Moley, and now Wilfred, who never used to get hit with those shots, is in some trouble.
Kevin Moley keeps on coming. Less than 10 seconds to go in round 4. And we'll be right back with more boxing from Madison Square Garden right after this word from our local station.